All right, welcome. Thank you all for being here tonight. And my name is Anissa. I'm your librarian host here tonight. And we want to thank you for joining us for our special guest tonight, Muriel Leung and her friends reading with her. And this is a partnership with the Kearney Street Workshop. So we're very excited about that as well. And this is part of our AAPI celebrations. And we have a lot of events happening throughout May and all year round celebrating AAPI. We want to welcome you to the unceded land of the Ohlone tribal people and acknowledge the many Ramaytush Ohlone tribal groups and families as the rightful stewards of the lands in which we live and work in the Bay Area. The library is committed to uplifting the names of these communities and members from these nations with whom we live. We also encourage you to learn more about first-person culture and land rights, and are committed to hosting events and providing educational resources and book lists on this topic. We love making book lists. So in the chat, I'll put a link to tonight's event, which will have library resources, as well as links to Muriel and our friends that are reading as well, and to the Kearney Street. And anything that comes up, I'll also put that in the chat box and link it back to the library if possible, and to other places. We want to condemn the horrendous violence against Asian and Asian Americans in our communities. The library is for sure not a neutral institution. We stand in solidarity with our Asian community members and Black Lives Matter, and understand that anti-Black and anti-Asian racism both uphold white supremacy, and that all of our communities are harmed by these racial structures. The library works hard on our racial equity commitment, and that is in this document, the link to our racial equity work we've been working on. And I'll also put it in the chat, but if you just Googled SFPL racial equity, you would find all the work, not just that the library is doing, but our city is doing. All right. The library opened on Monday. Woohoo! It was very amazing. There was, if you haven't seen on the Twitter, the opening, our staff did an applause for all of the folks who came in, and there were some tears. It was amazing. So I would say by midsummer, a few more branches will open. We right now have 16 locations open for to-go service, as well as our bookmobiles are out there. And just a reminder to keep your masks on when coming to our library and coming to our to-go, and anywhere you're out there, protect all of our family and friends serving in the streets. All right. On Friday, we have Mr. Martin Yan. He's so fun, and he's just such an icon. And I'm like, we've had him 3 times now. I'm surprised every time that he nails his cooking program in less than an hour. He's on top of it, and super fun. So check that out. Saturday, we have 2 events: graphic novelist and author of Tresse, which is now a Netflix option, and then a panel of artists who are working for social and political change. And now I'm going to breeze through some of these events we have, and I will put the link in the chat box of events coming up. We are celebrating Aaliyah Bowles' book, Home Baked, which is part of our first Total SF Book Club, May 20th, in person. Not in person, like here. And on the same page, which is a monthly, bi-monthly read that we encourage all of San Francisco to read the same book. For May, we're celebrating author and journalist Vanessa Hua and her book, A River of Stars, which is a really wonderful book of tragedy and humor and lots of San Francisco. If you do not follow Chinatown Pretty on Instagram, I suggest you do. Such amazing and beautiful seniors, and so stylish, and the best socks in the town. And it chronicles 6 different Chinatowns, and it's now a chronicle book. All right, and now I would like to introduce Jason from Kearney Street Workshop. And Jason, we thank you for being here, and we thank you for partnering with the library.
Thank you, Anissa, and thank you to the San Francisco Public Library. We're so happy to partner with you on this was going to be an amazing reading. I'm Jason Bani. I'm the artistic director for Kearney Street Workshop. We are a 49 turning 50-year-old arts organization, Asian Pacific American arts organization, one of the oldest in this country. And we offer programs, events, workshops, classes throughout the year. We got a lot of amazing stuff coming up. Check out our website, kearneystreet.org, or follow us on social media at Kearney Street, at Kearney Street Workshop on Instagram, and check out what we're doing, including, we got a lot of great stuff coming up, including our annual festival, Aperture, which puts the focus on emerging Asian Pacific American artists here in the Bay Area. So if you have questions, you can always contact us, and hope to see you around. And we are so excited for this reading. Every single one of these readers we adore and think they're awesome, and we can't wait to see what they bring to the stage tonight. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Muriel. So let's give it up for Muriel and everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Jason, for that intro. I told him to ad lib, so I think I did great. Welcome, everyone, to Imagine Us to Swarm, a launch party. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Muriel Leung, and I'm the author of Imagine Us to Swarm, winner of the 2020 Night Boat Poetry Prize, a book which officially releases on May 25th, but which is available for pre-order right now. Before we begin, I just want to thank Jason Bayani at Kearney Street Workshop, one of the sponsors for this event, for always holding it down for Asian and Pacific Islander American artists, performers, and writers. KSW has been my literary home even before I moved to the Bay, so I'm just really thankful to be part of such a supportive community. I also want to thank Anissa and the staff of the San Francisco Public Library for partnering with KSW for this event. One of the first residencies I've done is in the Bay is with Radar Production Shows Your Spines Fellowship, which just allows us to pursue research in LGBTQ topics within San Francisco Public Library's rich archives. So it's really wonderful to come full circle here. Since this reading requires everyone who's not reading today to mute their videos, I invite everyone in the audience today to send their love, cheers, good vibes through the chat box, which I see some of you have already been doing. Hi, hello. If you hear something from tonight that makes you go yes or moves you, feel free to note that in the chat. And I actually want to try that out right now with a little activity. So I promised trivia, raffles, giveaways, and I can only promise you one of three today because I'm tired. So Jen and I were going to do giveaways, and there's going to be two of them. And the first one is going to happen now. So the first giveaway is this, and it does require you to participate in the chat. I'm going to offer a short writing prompt. You, the audience member, if you're willing, is going to respond to that prompt in the chat. The readers with me tonight will help me select the best response to the prompt I'm offering, and that person will be the winning recipient of a signed copy of my book. So sounds like people love prompts and interactive activities, so that's great. Okay, are you ready for the prompt? I'm going to read it out loud twice, and I'll also put it in the chat. Okay. Here we go. Here's a prompt. Complete the following statement with as much possibility as you can muster. When I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm. Here's a prompt. Complete the following statement with as much possibility as you can muster. When I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm. So take your time with this prompt. I want to say a few words about this book, which is going to take about 1 to 2 minutes. And then after I'm done, I'm going to check on all of you and we will select our first winner. So my uncle, Chung Tran, who is one of the poets celebrating this book with me here today, once said, Write the book as if you're writing a life. He meant it as a way of thinking of the poem as something much bigger than the single lyric on the page, but one that constantly reinvents what it means to make an art object, one that stands the test of time. Imagine Us a Swarm did not have such great ambitions when it began. Really, I wanted to write about how, even after the publication of Bone Confetti, my first book, the weight of one's personal history could not be just simply excised. I wanted to write about my father, how he tried, the failure already embedded in model minority myth-making, and what it means to write now, which is a type of labor so punishing at times, the proximity of our mutual struggles. But of course, the forces underlying this are far bigger, demand more space. And so one short essay became 7 constellated texts, an autobiographical collection of essays in verse that leans so heavily into a mourning song that what it means to be Asian American, raced and gendered the way I am, demand to be rewritten. Perhaps one of the many reasons why I'm so excited to celebrate this work today is because I know there is a new era of Asian American writing emerging, one that extends from the coalitional practices of cross-racial solidarity, but which also acknowledges that much has to be done to unpack the anti-Blackness that still courses through our histories. It is an era where problematizing of Asian American as a unifying term does not eschew its significant political history, but allows us to imagine how we can do this work better, more radically, and in the spirit of abolition. I see this in the art that is out there now, and the writers I've invited to take part in the celebration today exemplify for me some of those important figures in this movement. Addie Sai, Hari Olori, Angie Sijan Lau, Janice Lopez, Sapigao, Trang Tran. Thank you to them and to so many writers who are pushing this conversation forward. So before we begin, let's pick our first winner for this giveaway. Addie, Hari, Angie, Janice, Chung, which of our audience responses most resonate with you? We can start with, and you can unmute yourselves if you want to chime in with some thoughts. There's a lot of responses.
So many of them are so good. I just Wells, who dropped in the most recent one, and I've just been moved by. I want to say Rachel because she got it in first. That feels like I've been moved by all of them. We've got rhizomes from Dan. We've got possibilities upside doubting the other way. The togetherness, the strength of skin that can't be stung. So I'm going back to like whoever threw that one in first. I'm going to say Rachel right now.
These are all amazing. I want to take my time reading through some of these.
You want to read them aloud and make an impromptu poem right now?
Oh my gosh, should we? Okay, can you all help me read them out loud? I think it'll be too chaotic if everyone is unmuted, but maybe just the readers. If you want to unmute yourselves and read them out loud, popcorn style.
I'm down to read. I'll read the first one and we'll just go around our little readers.
Okay.
When I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm, my body becomes honey, becomes gold, becomes abundance.
I'll read something. I stagger soberly towards it, all of them or us, as swarms slicing forward in time with purpose, shared and unspoken. Evan Chan.
Can I read mine aloud? You'll have to excuse me if I ad-lib a little bit because I didn't understand the swarm at first, but I'll give it a try. I think I put, when I imagine the possibilities of the swarm, I think of my open mind for AAPI folks plus police brutality victims like Queen Breonna Taylor and from the Bay Area, probably Mario Woods and Oscar Grant. Because
Thanks.
Mario got killed in in San Francisco, and Grant got killed in Fruitvale in Oakland.
Thank you for that.
Okay, can I read two that I really liked? So this
Mhm.
is from Aika. When I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm possibilities me back into my own imagination. And one more from Jordan. When I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm, I am usually in the back of a pickup truck, unbelted, under both stars and a possible storm, my neighbor driving down the H2, eating the breeze made lion-like, where you can almost hear the broken treaties in it.
I love that.
I'll go. Oh, wait, somebody else. I'll read Dan's. When I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm, my rhizome exhales into an embrace.
I'll read Kiana's. When I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm, I am released into laughter.
All right, Jonathan's. When I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm, I start to expand bigger and bigger until I am so large that I can't see over my own horizon, and I am no longer myself, but something bigger, much, much bigger. A couple more, Kiana. When I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm, I am released into laughter. Victoria, I imagine the sky cracking into shards of glory.
If I can read Fenwell's. When I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm and swoon into its callings, my tongue licks the bowl of the future.
I'll read Johnny's. When I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm, one purpose shared by many, collecting sweetness for each other. And Juby's, I write it, let it crest. I wonder what it means to be consumed by what's coming, what I wouldn't give for a moment in this movement.
Here's Elizabeth's. When I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm, I imagine the unending creativity, beauty, insight, and strength of the voice behind it. Katie, when I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm, I swarm all the possibilities of my imagining, and finally, I know myself.
There is a revision that I would like to read. I stagger,
Okay.
I stagger soberly towards it, all of them or us, as swarm, slicing forward in time with purpose, shared and unspoken. Evan.
Did we miss any? Or I think there's a couple, right, that we haven't read out loud.
I'd love to read Christian's.
Mm-hmm.
When I imagine the possibilities of the swarm, I rearrange my bones, and all our past selves are healed and are forgiven into future selves, radiant flesh.
I'll read Jules. When I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm, I know that colony entropy is an unconscious ballet of love, shared values, and infinite futures.
Here's Anthony's. When I imagine all the possibility of the swarm, I stay standing, stanchion, like to block all the energies against me and the ones I call family. Asa, when I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm, I imagine that the end of us isn't the same as the end altogether. Nancy, when I imagine the possibilities of the swarm, I think you meant swarm, or form, the sky expands to hold my heart. When I imagine all the possibilities of the form, the sky expands to hold my heart. I like that too. Did we miss anyone? I don't want to miss anyone, but there's a lot of great responses. Okay, but we have to pick one out of all of them. So we got Rachel because they were first. I love it. Also, y'all must really like free books. So I did not expect this many responses. Oh, I love it. Okay, any other bids from the rest of the readers?
I wonder if choosing at random would be easier than choosing on purpose.
Probably. Okay. All right. For this one, we'll just say Rachel, because you were the first to share, and that's really hard to do, as we know with writing prompts. Thank you so much for participating.
Hello, bye.
Thumbs up for Rochelle because I had to put the AAPI.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I said thumbs up for Rochelle because I said thumbs up for Rochelle as the winner.
Cool. Thank you. All right. So Rochelle, I'm going to send you just a message. So if you could just email me, I will go ahead and send you, and you email me your address, I will send you a copy of the signed book. So thank you so much for participating. Thank you all for sharing your beautiful, beautiful responses. I can't wait to look through the chat later and read them through them more carefully. So thank you so much. Okay, so this is the first giveaway. There's going to be another one coming up soon. I'm sorry if I didn't get to read yours out loud, but know that I really appreciate all the time you've all taken to respond. So without further ado, I'm excited to introduce our first reader for today, my dear friend, Addie Sai, pronouns she, they, is a queer non-binary artist and writer of color and teaches courses in literature, creative writing, dance, and humanities at Houston Community College. She also teaches in Goddard College's MFA in Interdisciplinary Arts and Regis University's Mile High MFA in Creative Writing. They collaborated with Dominic Walsh Dance Theater on Victor Frankenstein and Camille Claudel, among others. Addie holds an MFA from Warren Wilson College and a PhD in dance from Texas Women's University. She is the author of the queer Asian young adult novel Dear Twin, which made the 2021 Rainbow Book List and received press in Autostraddle, Bustle, Lambda Literary Review, and others. Addie's writing has been published in Fog Lifter, Vita Lit, the Texas Review, and elsewhere. They are the fiction co-editor at Anomaly, staff writer at Spectrum Self, and founding editor and editor-in-chief of Just Femme and Dandy. Please welcome Addie.
I'm really so excited to be here to celebrate Muriel's new book, which I just read. It's gorgeous, and you're in for a treat. I'm just going to read just a few poems. Thank you. In Baba's house, a pair of rain boots the color of lemons is desire. And desire was freedom. When Baba said no, I hid underneath the bed, another sign that I was free. That image was an anomaly. Or an experiment, you might say, where my skin is a magnolia, defiant, and the anomaly, Baba's confusion, I don't understand, not even raining outside, was a lie. Would you like a mooncake? Once I read a novel about a girl whose face is ravaged. Mine must be the opposite, maybe. You can still see the shadow where the baby fat was cleaved off with a Chinese butcher knife. Sometimes I think my face belies me. My eyes, they still know how to fix on a subject, wander around in an attempt to look nonchalant. Sometimes I think I belie my face. Too spongy, an infant told me once, grabbing the mess of it in both hands and kissing me on the mouth. I wonder if I furrow my brow long enough, will that crease in the middle of my otherwise perfect skin give me just the edge I need? But let's not talk about vanity. Not now, as I flash back to the hours I spent in my father's car, staring at my eyes in the rearview mirror. I remember now how I got in the way of his defensive driving, merely me trying to take him out of the equation. What equation? Let's talk about something else. My voice, maybe, how it takes on the language of the ancient, the only English I've ever known. Say something to me in another language. Mandarin, for example. 你要阅兵吗? I promise you I'll nod my head for a moment, laugh a bell laugh that almost sounds like embarrassment, but could be prior knowledge. Am I making sense yet? Didn't think so. Go ahead, grab my fleshy face the way you'd like to grab the moon. That is, if the moon were in front of you on the table, puffy and round like dough. You know you want to. Elegy for the Unborn. On the rape of Nanjing, China, 1937. On the birth of my father, Nanjing, China, 1948. In sleep, my brown hair is long. It braids into ropes, slick and blackened like tar. My hands splinter. They finger the impression of rings, the filaments round my feathered ankles. In the air, semen and pine from chairs scorched like forests burning. My mouth, a desert wind. Across the face, bodiless braids bristling. Heads buried beneath tombstones of men. When I sleep, my grandmother's shriek hangs, a mute oracle. When I sleep, the trenches of war are smoothed over like sand. With sand, my hand scouring her body for my father's stretch marks, like a nail. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Addie. That's really great. The next person to read, Hari Lori. Hari Lori's pronouns he, him, sia, is the author of The Flayed City from Kaya Press, a winner of the 2020 Leonard A. Slade Jr. Fellowship for Poets of Color, and a recipient of grants from the Canada Council of the Arts. His work appears recently or soon in the Watch Your Head and Pandemic Solidarity anthologies, as well as Apogee, Solstice, Tinderbox, Witness, and elsewhere. Aloria's collaborations lately are through BIPOC writing community, community building artworks, The Cult, The Digital Sala, Massey Books, and Soft Cedar. Please welcome Hari.
Thank you so much, Muriel. Thank you, just everyone who's here. I'm like looking at faces, trying not to get stuck on how many beautiful folks are in the house. I just saw Kazum, whose beautiful face I have to give a shout out to. And all the other readers, I'm excited. Thank you, Addie, for that like wow beginning. And big up to the folks who threw down and made a group poem before we even had to read, making it easier for all of us. Muriel's work challenges me to open, to juxtapose, to be transformed in the telling, to allow the telling to be more than what it is, and also to be aware of the ways that it's less than the stories that we're trying to tell, that the holes in remembrance are also portals. I looked up the numerology for today, and one version of it is the number 42, which on the Sacred Symbols deck is release, and the symbol of that is the Karpan. And I kind of just, I think like this is from Muriel. Muriel, I think you'll see the ways in which this is a poem back to Imagine Us to Swan. For Oracle card release for and after Muriel again. The most recent dish that I burnt was an attempt to add oxtail to day-old sinigang. One of the bones took the shape of a bird star at its center. I freaked out like I deserved a deep, deep type of punishment, and it's haunted me ever since. In another haunting, there was a week one summer years ago. Notice Muriel, I didn't say once, though I will say again. When I was a mentor at a youth camp by a lake in the interior of a province I've barely been to since, when every lesson that came to me was accompanied by bee sting. I was getting stung between 2 and 7 times a day. This is not a metaphor. I'm the type of person creatures had to die for just so I would prick up my ears and cringe for years after at words like forgiveness. I've tried to invent the forgiveness mudra several times, not yet. To my oldest friend who's still alive, I text this to you from a world that you can't reach. I wish for you that the bottles miss your head, that any knives you face no longer cut you. I am sorry that I have been one of those knives. I am sorry for any knife blade stories I gave another to harm you with. This time I'll walk the longer block from work toward where you live. So the next time we share a cigarette's time, it's closer to where our 1990s teenage brown boy poses litter your floor. Oof, the casual understanding our masculinity couldn't handle, the lifting fog the camera prefers to anything steady. Maybe that is also a form of sweeping, because the photo album empty is a body for what is safe to keep. I guess you already know I'm going to tell you that bees are holy. They sacrifice so we might know the scent of faith in spring. I guess you already know I struggled to be better. Bees died by plunging their stingers into me, and I still haven't learned my lessons. We're ugly when we stretch toward our most beautiful selves. We're ugly because of how difficult that stretch. We're ugly enough that, futile as it might be, the holiest of creatures might offer their only sting, sacrifice their most holiest lives as if to tell us how dangerous forgiveness is. Of course, I know that wasn't why they stung me. More likely, I kept on receiving my lessons too close to where they wished they were safe. Still, they died, and it was a kind of punctuation. They remind me that the fuck you mudra, the fuck you symbol is a mudra too. To inhabit is to absorb. Centipedes of flame, the roots of the islands that we're from. Should I believe what I just said? This is only a little tongue of dirt, a little divination. The city you leave in me has elder trees whose carvings weren't carved by hands, beat down alleys too, and a glinting I'm still afraid to tell you isn't mine. The moment when my faith is the body of a bee curled up after its sting. Sweet as in skin, as in punctuated, as in absorption, as in the body rock. My teeth are only perfect where the braces failed to take. If a thing can pull you, it can hurt you. And that's the prize, to inhabit as does ink. Can the bird star at the center be an anchor? If the center isn't where the center thinks it is, my spine becomes another flag, Muriel, Leung. The meat poor sauce is rich again with lingering. Thank you. Thank you, Muriel. Congratulations.
Thank you, Hari. Thank you for this gift. This is exactly what I, love is being able to have a work that is in conversation with the people that have really inspired me and whose work I hold dear. So I'm going to be remembering all these words shared, yours and Addie's, like for a long time. So thank you so much. I'm excited to introduce our next reader, Angie Sijan Lo, who's the daughter of Chinese immigrants. Her work has appeared in the American Poetry Review, Poetry Northwest, Fence, Black Warrior Review, the Adroit Journal, the Asian American Literary Review, Hyphen, The Margins, and others. She is a Kundiman Fellow, a PhD candidate in Literature and Creative Writing at the University of California, Santa Cruz, and a calculus instructor at San Quentin State Prison. She received fellowships and support from the Vermont Studio Center, Malay Colony, and the Mendocino Coast Writers Conference. She lives in Oakland. Hi, Angie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for hosting and to Muriel for inviting me to read. I'm so honored to be included in this evening of joy and celebration in this virtual ether. So I wanted to start by saying a few words about the book. My first encounter with Muriel's work was years ago, actually before we became friends. And when she published This Is to Live Several Lives in the journal Nat Brett. It's a piece I've held close to me over the years, and I was so happy to see a newer version of it as the membrane of this book. I've often taught this piece to my creative writing students on the week of lyric essays, not only because the piece is beautifully written and heartbreaking, but also because it seems to construct its own ontological grammar. It illustrates the lyric I as a self in fragments, and the speaker never seeks to consolidate these fragments, but instead constellate them. And I think this speaks to the instrument of poetry for me as that which constellates a totality. And speaking of constellating, I also want to note that this book is a Gemini, an air sign, and I look forward to the day when I can buy Muriel a drink and gush about all of this in real life. Okay. So I'm just going to read a couple poems. It's called The Berkeley Rose Garden. At last the bleeding days passed, and how the horses ride without latria, muscles they glint of sport beside the slavered highway, each alien tooth soiled with actual stars. In the first days of isolation, Rumor and I paced the meridian of his dune-quiet street, naming boundaries for time, agrarian dark, almost light, dusk that is not dusk, but the errant pulse of the thing that drives us madly into a forever fit of shadow. Through windows, the eeriness of people living newly inside homes, faces shaven and unlit, sitting in chairs not sat in before, speaking in tongues unspoken of before, blurs lovely, lucres darkly, cinema and flesh, ambient or whatever, hopes for themselves, lapsed before the silica moon. It was a mirage saturated with its own coming, our dead ciphering dead, assets liquefying as rain. At the limits of our accumulation, how we could be dispersed. Okay, the second poem is called Neon Babylon. I believe I am done with Babylon until Parker and I bike through East London's serpentine dark. The coldest light defends us. What pure topology can history unmake? The river Thames begs for ablution, some pools too oblique for the burial, and the hills, dislucid like nothing else. River weeds trace our elemental body, while the ones we love, the faultless ones, spin records in the warehouse where we sleep. I ring my bell in darkness. Hello, I've come to fight you only in wars that have ended. Hackney Wick, boiler room in my dreams, room I forget how to language, this it rains. I can't believe what I was. I can't believe what I am. Our bodies made coalitional again. I talisman my longing. It stays evening all day. I talisman so much that larval river and the mutest swan, brightness shaking in the black. It is a phase of being alive. I need a cruelty to slip into. I need lilies to shiver in animus before the sun. I light the stove to cook eggs in specific ways. For you, I keep my brainless heart, the yolk that is not yolk, but the nucleus I translate from one tongue to the tongue that seized us, each of us birthing the other their center. If I were the Euphrates, I would darken my braid. If I were the Genesis, I could let poetry ruin my cyberite face. I'm always in metaphor or knifing out an exit, loosened the scythe that gives violence to the sign. How it slits me liminal. Will the angel of history show a glimpse of his cards? We drink sun-warm Sprite in the Highgate Cemetery, my ointment pure, my loving's conditional. All we've lost, we sublate into total loss. I only know Earth as a concept I ruminate until the real you comes I could bleed clean into. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. That was great. Our next reader is Janice Lopez. She is a poet from San Jose, California. She's the author of 2 books of poetry, Microchips for Millions, from Philippine American Writers and Artists, Inc. in 2016, and Like a Solid to a Shadow from Naipo Books 2017. Hello, pressmate. She is the 2020-2021 Santa Clara County Poet Laureate. Please welcome Janice.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Muriel. I want to say congratulations on your second book and forgive my bee puns, but I am excited for it to release into the world and to surround everyone. I read through the first part and it left me wanting to take my time before I continued to read the rest. So I don't know if there are spoilers in poetry collections, but for everyone, I guess I want to say that the part about the golden prom dress led me to think about what I would read today, because I saw that moment from like so many different angles. And so okay, can I just read this like strong line from your collection, Muriel? I don't want to like ruin anything that you're about to read. These lines, let me tell you a story which begins with a death and ends with the study of a life of labor. It just left me to think about how every breath is laborious. And then I just started thinking more and more about the layers of mourning and grieving. And so that's how I put my poems together. And if anyone wants to follow along, you can. I put a link in the chat. This first poem is called Caretaking. I help my mother into the shower and she holds me the way I held onto handlebars or seat belts during roller coaster rides at the local theme park where I had my first job. Ma dropped me off every day for almost every shift, the same way I took her to most doctor's appointments. Both places in Santa Clara, both places temporary. And I give my mom a calendar, not knowing how many days she'll have left with us. I give my mom clothes, and she says she can't take them with her where she's going. And where is she going without me? She tells my brother in a muted voice, undetected by the baby monitor we put in her room. She says she is going to see her parents soon. And the last time we saw them was at their funerals. I help by letting her help herself to her towel, sitting on her walker, by wiping and drying her legs and feet, and places she can't reach. I observe that bending over a stomach cyst is not painful, but heartbreaking, not impossible, but terrifying. As much as I want to help, I know caretaking is one constant waiting room, a routine of return, of make-believe. I become the nurse she wanted me to be while I studied writing. I will be anything. Does she know? I don't blink. I wash the world away, the one without her. Whew. Caretaking. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Thanks. Thanks for listening. These are drafts. I don't know. I'm just like really happy to be in this space and to like be here. I think I wrote about this on Instagram the other day, but Muriel once like helped calm me down when I was freaking out before a reading. And Muriel just looked at me in a very like calm way and said, I'm glad I'm not the only one who freaks out before readings, which I think you all can hear Muriel saying in your head. So thank you for that. Here is the last half of what I'll be reading and freaking out about. This poem is called A Story of Flowers, and I wrote it during the digital sala, like when we were just sharing writings with each other. So I started buying myself flowers every other week, maybe just to see how long they'd last. The flowers or the habit or both. And it's been 9 months now since she passed. And not even me or department stores or roses or peonies or carnations gathered, nothing she enjoyed most will bring her back. I think about it often, losing my mom and buying flowers, the latter teaching me about the former and what it means to take care of a dying but living thing, how delicate a body, a belonging is. And maybe this is what it means to leave anything an offering. And maybe this is what it means to leave a tender, a softening. Maybe people are right when they'd say they'd give anything to get something back. But what if you have nothing after copays and appointments and emails where you have to remind doctors about their hearts and yours, and that the world is not clinical? Every unanswered question that comes from insurance, from aunties asking why and how, from cousins who stack advice when I call. I have trouble saying the word die. So instead, I will say, I watched purple daisies darken and droop. I watched their necks pillow the rim of a vase. I saw their petals grip and release like tiny fingers. The flower's filaments fell forward. I will say that she hugged herself asleep. I'll say that she brought a new day without her in it. Whew. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and to Muriel for inviting me to read. And I just want to say that without bees, we wouldn't have any flowers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janice. I had, I started to write like personal notes to introduce everyone at this reading, and I realized that they were becoming essays. So I took that out, and so I would email you all privately later. But I will say that Janice's Microchips for Millions was one of those books that deeply influenced Imagine Us a Swarm, and I love when Janice reads because I think there's a conjuring of so many ancestral voices into this space. So I just wanted to recognize that. Thank you, Janice. The next reader is someone who is like a mentor to me. My uncle, Chung Tran, is a poet and visual artist. His work has been featured in solo exhibitions at California Institute of Integral Studies, the Telegraph Hill Gallery, Soma Arts, Mina Dresden Gallery, and the Peninsula Museum of Art. His books include Placing the Accents, The Book of Perceptions, Dust and Conscience, Within the Margin, 4-Letter Words, 100 Words, and the much anticipated Book of the Other, forthcoming October 2021 from Kaya Press. Please definitely check that out. He is currently the adjunct professor of poetry at Mills College, where he teaches graduate courses about poetics and the crossing of writing and visual art. Please welcome Chung.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Muriel, congratulations on this book. There is no greater honor than to be called your uncle. I really appreciate that because I don't have that great a relationship with my nephews and nieces. They're all techies. So it's a great honor to be called that. And I also want to say that I remember when you were writing this book, I think we were sharing a space together. We were sharing a studio, and I remember you reading some of these poems to me. I don't know if you recall, but you read some of these poems, at least a couple of them. And I just remember reading that this is going to be a book, and not just a book. And little did I know that this is also a timely book. So congratulations. I'm going to read a writing prompt, a footnote, a poem with a footnote. So it's very, I'll try to keep it quick. But the writing prompt is, I was asked to include a writing prompt in this book that I'm releasing in October. And after 20 years of teaching, I think I've earned the right to write this writing prompt. The 5 obstructions, a poetry exorcism. 1, state a fact. Begin your statement with this motherfucker. 2, confront a lie. Use profanity, something like, hey, motherfucker. 3, ask a question. Ask this of a motherfucker. 4, identify an audience, then exclude. In your exclusion, include the word motherfucker. 5, still, there's something you did not say. Say it in the footnote, you motherfucker. This is a poem that addresses my use of the word. In the course of this book, the word is used deliberately in excess. The word is used and someone laughed. The word is used in a sentence out of anger. The word is used as metaphoric violence. The word is used in context of the mother. My mother, if she knew, if translated, I think my mother would approve of the word. The word interrupts in the course of this book. The word, I'm told, is just the word. She calls every day at 8 a.m. My mother insists on interrupting my slumber. My mother says she is my alarm clock. A Vietnamese man died this week, stabbed in the heart. The word is used because there is no other word. Written again into this book, my mother calls to know that I'm alive. The man who died, I wonder if his mother is still alive. Another Vietnamese man is killed in the same week. My mother calls to tell me of this news. She won't stop watching. She won't stop watching. 8 in the morning, and my mother calls with gruesome details of how a Vietnamese man is killed and dismembered. The word is interrupting even now. My mother tells me the man they killed is about my age, if not a bit older. My mother tells me the boys who killed him are white and the age of my students. In the course of this book, I am thinking about the word and its use. I temper the word by changing a letter. The word I know is not just a word. I think about my mother all the time, and the mothers of those who have been hurt and killed, and the mothers of those who hurt and kill. The word, my mother, the mother of the word. Footnote. I question the word. I question this poem. I question if I even have the right to use this word, to write this poem. Someone will question the language of this poem, of this book. That is to be expected. But if this is not clear, if I'm not clear, this is anger. I am angry. I wake up angry because my mother calls at 8 a.m. I wake up angry. Someone is dying all the time. And this is a poem that is actually a footnote. What is enough? How will I live? What is enough? How will I live? This declaration, these are the only 2 questions I want to answer. Ask of myself. Last night I went to bed and slept continuously for a duration of 8 hours. I can't remember the last time I've been able to sleep seamlessly through a night. I woke up this morning feeling rested and, dare I say it, hopeful. As the day progressed, this hope, it comes. As I move my body through the world, slowly, this hope, it goes. News of a mass shooting after a year of absence. This is normalizing. This is waking. These questions, they keep on coming back. What is enough? How will I live? I water the plants in my garden. In other news, an elderly Asian woman fights back. She sends her assailant to the hospital. He hit me for no reason. These are not her exact. These are not her exact. I'm getting old, folks. I can't even. These are not her words exact. They are the English captions of a life translated. This woman, I see my mother from a distance. What is enough? I potted a tree. I bought a bag of vegetables. How will I live? I'm writing these words. I'm breathing through a mask. What is enough? My former students have been sending notes. How are you doing? Please be careful. Sending you hugs. Fuck them, Trung. I'm thinking about buying some pepper spray for you. And so I carry a stick for protection. I'm walking, even if it's only to the thrift store and back. I'm still pretty tough, and still I'm afraid of walking down the street. What is enough? It comes, it goes. How will I live? This hope. I'm walking every day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trung. I know we talk about the timeliness of our work. I feel like so many writers I know today have been long speaking out about racialized violence. And so the things that are happening, certainly not new, still horrific. And I do appreciate that there is that message of walking with hope every day and the dailiness of it and persistence that you're ending with. So thank you so much to Addie, Hari, Angie, Janice, and Trung for sharing this space with me today. Before I close out the night with a reading from my book, I want to share one last giveaway with you all. So tonight I'm going to be reading from the last section of my book, which is entitled When I Imagine All the Possibilities of the Swarm. This section of the book features pieces that all begin with the refrain suppose, each a speculative rendering of what it means to rewrite past wrongs, correct parts of history we sometimes wish we could forget, not as in Wolf for forgetting, but as an experiment to imagine a different kind of future, untethered to the cumulative injuries of our past and the generations that precede us. What would it look like if we were unburdened from this, even if for a while in the dream of a future? I think there is immense power in this visioning, and I hope that there's one thing that you can all take with you today, it is that. So, for this final giveaway, I offer you one last prompt, which you'll have until the end of this reading to complete. I'll put it in the chat as well. The prompt is this: conjure the highest hope for a future in which you are free. Begin your statement with suppose and see where it takes you. So the prompt is this: conjure the highest hope for a future in which you are free. Begin your statement with suppose and see where it takes you. Let's see if I can share my screen. Can I do this? Can you all see this? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Suppose that everybody I ever loved made up a tiny universe in which each one thrived in their own planetary hues. I mistook each one for the central star, common mistake. And still I draped each of them in a garment of changing seasons. How many moons, I asked. They answered, and I supplied. The universe moved in strident form, each planet missing the other in orbit. I did not intend to collapse the blue planet, still unfurling in its newness, but the layers of its life saw no future for water. I abandoned a dry well. I floundered. Years ago, the universe held a pale sun. It struck a match to every star-kissed body, and in its stillness was painful as glass. I thought falling in love meant white hot, but that was only a fraction of the universe, of time. I felt the shadow first when I pleaded, eclipse me. It was the chaos of spurs and it burned. It came and went, and in returning begged the spun miracle of rings. There would be no end to this carrying. For them, I knew I would always wait. Turning my body over, I saw the universe was halved, its noisy assemblage sliding towards collision. I held the planets close. I pressed their gaseous swarms to ruckus mass. I did this so they would believe me. Having endured the labor of the current, the universe was fast expanding. It needed to fold. Even I could not bear it. I surrendered, and I loved them all. Suppose the impact was a bell, a warning instead moving through a hollow factory. The violence of men and the colonial rituals of their past were a lesson. In the pedagogy of grief, the earth was good, and then history, the stalwart chemicals of his wake, still seeps in the soil. Would we not reverse that too if we could? The atomic weight of him pressed so deep into my torso that generations after would feel the soreness of ribs. Suppose my grandfather never struck my aunt because her cheek was there, and my father, in his piety to the self-same heaving, did not instead tell her to move out of the way. Because I was born witnessing, and in my queerness still desire the love of these masculine injuries, I listened too closely and was lost. The pattern undulates and recedes. Suppose I became the sound of wind chimes crashing into the ground, startling the other body there that would not move. The ghost of my future visits my past and tells her, you have to be brave. I could fortify my life this way. My allegiance to the bone, its refusal as instruction, will buoy me when memory is not enough. To feel even now the soft impressions of many thumbs. They are not the violence I remember. There is nothing left to forgive. Suppose it is easy to believe. Every sparrow landing leaves a fossilized mark. The hard air pushing against its wings having shape, texture, and fold. Easy to swallow what we cannot see, what the barriers of flesh cannot know. The coarseness of evidence, the fabric of my hide. There would be no question of feathers, their lightness accruing iron, no animal testifying to the grave. When I bleed, I bleed. The farce rushes to bind the body red to me. Easy to make amends out of water. The fish leap from the foam, and this can be a victory too. Though I once placed too much faith in brute and ardor, it is softness that touches me. Even in the absence of love, I kneel before the altar of its loss, my belief lit by candle alone. I have this belief in the afterlife of many tender objects, the persistence of their kin. Belief that though the truth pockets holes, I peer through blinds and the kite of it is waiting there with tri-colored bells. There is proof enough for you and me. There would never be any need for proof again. When I say I believe you, I mean this, the kite, the colors, the clarity of bells. And this is the last one. Suppose there is an end to our suffering. Like a chariot, the absence of grief circles us with the obstinate heat of the largest star. To believe in the radiant orbit of this fire. To face an empty cup and find a constellated mire of you and me in the toppling of a century. We rise from the painful corridors of a life. Rarely did we dream of planetary rings, and yet, tilting ourselves up, we see the heavenly bodies of all that has passed, each one bright with surrender. We can go on. We can dress ourselves in the celestial cloak of this wide expanse. Every woman and femme in a disorder of the peel. I will never write another elegy again. I am looking at you now in the acceleration of time. All the possibilities of the swarm ignite, the humming of many wings amassing into a greater noise. We can write our origins sacred here and renounce the country of our fear. There is only our singular pulse when we fill the sky. So thank you so much to all of you who came here today and listened. I hope something that was shared tonight has resonated with you, and that you will get a copy of Imagine Us a Swarm if you haven't yet, or pick up a copy of any of the readers' books today whose work have really resonated with you. So for our final giveaway now, I think the whole picking out one of many terrific prompt responses was way too difficult, but I do like the idea of us, maybe each of us sharing, all the readers sharing one out loud, and then we'll just pick a one at random. Or is this one of those prompts that no one did? I think I see one from Anthony. Suppose I have all the free time in the world, free to be me, unlimited, untethered, unopposed, and unoppressed. No room for exploitation, only mutual respect and love, and that is true freedom. Thank you, Anthony.
Here's Aika. Suppose every wound thorns no more. Suppose every more thorns no wound. Suppose I say yes and you say yes too. Suppose I say no and you say yes too. Suppose my supposition is superimposed by your super, and our power supposes every goddamn thing possible.
And from Tara, suppose we built our lives on the seas.
From Claudia, suppose we gather and move together without fear. Suppose one or a few or many take off, scattering to our own discoveries. Suppose we gaze inward with grace. What we contain can no longer contain us.
Muriel again. Suppose I could be like the facade of this building, like the sidewalk, the errant plants grown with concrete, anonymous, untouched, simply a part of the day-to-day.
I can read Jordan's. Suppose there's a future where I dream a future beyond now, and it no longer breaks me with distance, with difference. No one wakes up to the task of building a self that sells. The only patterns and fabrics covering us on porches, cooling, and everyone looks at each other with their whole lives. There is no year, there is no hard line. The whole world is an ocean, and we can breathe here. We fall asleep dreaming of it.
Muriel, I'm going to be your uncle in this moment and say that if fell off track and I can't seem to find. I'm the Luddite here.
You're strong. You're exempt from
I'm
those
the old man who
activities,
doesn't quite know how to
actually.
work with technology.
It's
I
okay, Trung.
apologize.
It's okay, Trung. I'll read on your behalf.
Thank you.
This is from Lauren. Suppose I do, after all, leave my apartment and the days are broad, creased, and full of hands. From Gustavo. Suppose not having to teach a child to protect themselves from institutions. Suppose all that pedagogy can nectar a kinder living instead. Ooh, there's a lot. Okay. I will need to spend some time with some of these. I'm sorry that I can't read every one of these out loud, but I hope you keep writing them, and I hope that some of these prompts have inspired some writing for you all to carry on with your days. I think if I were to choose someone at random, I'm going to go with Hari's method, which is whoever was the first one to respond, which was Anthony. So Anthony, thank you so much. This is my email. And you can go ahead and email me your address and I will send you a signed copy of the book. Thank you so much for participating in this writing prompt. Thank you. Thank you, all of you who have shared. I know that some of you have shared some more detailed comments in the chat, and I just want to say I've seen it. I've been reading it, and I'm glad that it's resonated with you. And I hope that, yes, for reading that, I think carries so much weight. I hope that there's a little bit of joy and hope that's come from this. And of course, thank you to everyone who read with us today. Thank you, everyone, for coming to celebrate Imagine Us, the Swarm with me. This reading will be recorded and will be appearing on YouTube, so you can watch it again after this is done. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Enjoy the rest of your night, and hopefully I'll see you all in person someday very soon.
Everyone can unmute if they'd like and, give the official. And thank you, Muriel.
Yay, Muriel!
Thank you. Woo!
Congrats.
Thank you all, and thank you, Kearney Street Workshop. Muriel, thank you very much. And look for all of the books at SFPL. We got you covered.